But it's all good. We are here. I have the eye patch.
He does have the eye patch.
I had to mention it. We said we wouldn't.
I joked about it. It's just not acknowledging it at all. Like, Jost has always had an eye patch. I feel like we should talk about it, though. What's the deal with the eye patch?
Well, so we got a dog. Big, hairy dog.
True.
I have allergies.
He does.
Big, hairy allergies.
True.
That were already very bad before we got this big, hairy dog. Basically, one day, because the weather was bad and whatever, and my skin was super dry, I put some lotion on my hands. I eventually rubbed my eyes with Nivea cream, which is the thickest lotion known to man. That shit will stay on you for like 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got in my eyes, irritated my eyes, and then because my allergies were bad, because the dog's in the house, and because my eye was still irritated, you know, it kind of just kept it going. And then I didn't realize that the tissues I was using to kind of blot around my eyes, they were actually shredding into little bits the entire time, and I was getting shreds of tissue in my eyeball as well. So I just spent days fucking up my eye and putting different shit in it to the point where we are now, where I just have an eye patch to stop things from getting into it. It's totally fine. Yazeed saw my eye just before we started recording, but he can confirm it's there.
He does have 2 eyes still. Well, he's in possession of 2 eyes, is what I will say.
One thing I've noticed about the eye patch thing, I was super hyped. Just the idea of getting an eye patch. I think I had pink eye once as a kid, and I had an eye patch for that. But I wear glasses now, and the effect of the look is a lot less. I look more like I used to be on drugs.
Yeah, that is true. When you didn't have the glasses on and you were just wearing the eye patch, it did go kind of hard. But
yeah,
the glasses plus eye patch look is a little...
It's like the eye patch was an event, and I've turned my life around, and I'm super lame now. Like, that's the look because of the glasses.
Yeah, but the glasses probably could be for depth perception.
Is that supposed to give me depth perception?
I don't know. Listen, I'm not an eye doctor. My brother is an eye doctor.
Brother is an eye doctor. No, but it's really weird because I don't have depth perception, and I never really think about that. Mm-hmm. But I'm very bad at grabbing things like this cup, for example. I'm slightly off on everything. And Synovia realized earlier that I was walking around like this, like with an angled head, because somewhere in my subconscious, I'm like, I need to figure out depth of where things are, and if I look at it at an angle, I can math it better than looking at it flat. Like, if everything is 2D to me. I don't know, but I was walking around looking like a dummy.
That's very funny.
Yeah, without realizing it. But anyway, that's the eye patch.
I mean, listen, that's pretty good. I'm glad that you're no longer fucking your eye up, is what I'll say.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling, especially because, I don't know, it's one of those things where, like, you just, you know, it sounds dumb, but, like, you take your eyes for granted, you know, like having 2 eyes, you know. Also, philosophical question. I wear glasses. I have, you know, one of them I can't see through. In this moment, am I a 2 eyes or a 3 eyes?
You're 1 eye still. Glasses don't add eyes.
No, I mean, if you were to bully me, like, what's the correct?
I'd call you fucking Captain Hook, Doug. I wouldn't talk about the glasses. I'd be like, this kid has got an eye patch on.
I don't know. Do you think, wouldn't it be cool to have an eye patch as a kid, though?
It
It's like making fun of a kid for an eye patch.
It depends. Okay, one, kids are mean, so they'll make fun of you for anything.
Yep.
If you're wearing, like, you know what, this, like, old, I don't know if this is true for you in like, middle school or elementary school, like, the kid who wore the, like, Hawaiian shirt, but it was just, like, a dragon or, like, fire on, like, a black t-shirt, like, a black, like, thing.
You and I went to middle school together, so this is kind of cheating, but yes, I do know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that was a cool look in middle school.
It was, yeah.
But
dated.
But that kid still got bullied.
I think it's because that kid was an asshole, and I think that's the real problem, is that if you're the kid that's going to be real fashion forward in high school, he didn't realize he was really making a statement with his outfits. He just thought the cargo shorts and the flame shirt were cool.
Yeah, but they were.
But he was starting a small revolution in a way. But the unfortunate downside is that, you know, a lot of those people are dickheads. Also, my eye is better, and I cannot see you if I'm not looking right at you, so I'm taking this off. It was a good bit, but I don't actually really need it.
It'll come back.
I'll come back. It'll come back.
Joseph's been taking it on and putting it off since I got here.
It's like a 30
In the
minutes.
last hour, it's the third time it's come off.
It's like a 30 minutes on and off thing, but I'm good right now. As long as the dog is out there, I think I should be okay. That's one thing I've noticed too, real quick, before you say what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Since we've got this dog, we've purchased this dog, I've realized that I say dog with like a East Coast accent. Like I say dog. Dog.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've seen Half Baked. Mm-mm. There's a part in it where the Thurgood is on a date, main character's on a date with this girl, and he's trying to save money, basically. So he takes her to a hot dog stand on the street in New York, and she says, "Can I get a hot dog?" And the way she says, "Can I get a hot dog?" it has determined the way that I say dog now, years later. And I don't know why, but this dog specifically brings out the East Coast in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cute.
I don't know. Maybe there was also one time when Synovia and I lived in Seattle, this guy like got up in my face when we were waiting for the bus, and Synovia pointed this out after, but she's like, when you get mad at people, you get an East Coast thing, because you were like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. And I kind of was. Looking back at it, I did pull out, like, that's my inner alter ego.
That is, listen, of all American accents,
yeah, dude,
that is the second scariest accent to run into.
A New York accent?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know enough about New Yorkers, but I know that they will all argue that that's the case.
That's the thing, especially from the West Coast, is I feel like they're not aware, really. And if you're an East Coaster, you just sound more aggressive because you talk faster.
Let me just double check that we're recording the audio still. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're good.
Nice.
You do talk faster if you're on the East Coast, which is kind of a me thing too. I talk very fast.
You do. You were born for the East Coast.
Yeah, I've been in New York for like 36 hours of my life, but it feels like
home.
It feels like if I didn't have the life I lived, I would move to New York. I really like it there a lot.
You could live there now.
No, I'm too used to having a house and like a small yard, and I'm not like a multi-millionaire. It's just literally not possible in New York.
Okay, that is true. Okay,
yeah,
fair.
But yeah, no. Anyway, how are you? How's stuff? Besides, my thing is my eye, obviously, and fighting dudes in the bus station.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into a fight recently. I yelled at an old lady whose dog was off leash, but that's part of the course for me. I do that regularly.
Do you have any like neighbor beefs as a result of your dog? I think I might have one brewing with a guy.
No, my neighbors all actually didn't know who I was until I got Sapphire, because I would go to work when most of my neighbors are retired, and so like they're up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So when you go to work at like 9 o'clock in the morning, they've been up for like 4 hours. They're probably not outside. They've already done their outside stuff. They're not inside like eating bran or whatever. I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
Right. And and then I would come back like at 7 o'clock at night, and so they wouldn't see me. They basically wouldn't see me ever. And so they called me my one neighbor who does know me told me that a lot of people just referred to me as the man of mystery, because she knew that I lived there, but no one else did. And so, yeah. But now a lot of them know me. And when my sister walked my dog for me, because I was out of town, they stopped my sister. And they're like, "Oh, is that your dog?" My sister was like, "No, I'm walking for my brother." Like, "Oh, your brother. Okay, that makes sense." And so they actually were looking out for me and Sapphire, which is kind of cool.
Oh, they recognized that.
They recognized Sapphire.
Okay.
Like, this isn't the guy who walks. Because I don't think they know who my name, actually. I think a lot of them don't know my name, but they all know Sapphire's name, because I say, like, "Oh, Sapphire."
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds a lot more tame than because the dogs in this neighborhood don't like my dog.
Yeah.
And in this park specifically, people let their dogs off the leash, and there's a big fucking sign that says "Don't do that," and I feel myself being that guy who's like, "Buddy, look at the sign,"
Yeah, dude. I've thought about the I thought about the whole listen, I'll let you off the warning this time, but if I see you again with a dog off leash, I'll call the police on you.
Oh my god, that's so lame, because the cops will never come either. That's like it's such an empty threat.
It is mega lame, and it is such an empty threat. But I feel like a lot of people panic and be like, "Oh," but they'll also hate you.
Yeah.
But that's the price I'm willing to pay for my dog.
Yeah.
Some random schmuck hating me.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't really fight a guy for my dog, but if my dog is like the catalyst for me fighting a guy, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm not defending the dog's honor. It's like you're a dick. You know.
Well, yeah. Or if their dog goes after your dog,
Oh yeah.
you got to step in.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'm fighting the dog and you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been there. That's why I yell at old lady.
Okay, well that's a little old ladies. What is she gonna do? You know.
That's the problem. Listen, if you're a 100-year-old lady, don't let your dog off leash if your dog's fucking aggro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their dog ran through a bush to get at Sapphire, and I had to be like, "Get your dog, get your dog." She was like walking all slow, and I was like, "Get your dog."
Yeah, because you're a victim at that point. You know, if you're 100, no matter what your intent is, you're a victim.
You-
There's no way you're defending yourself from a
Yeah, I
crazy
mean,
man.
she's just gonna get fucking knocked out. I could have hit her. Yeah, I can get mad that I was put in a scenario where I have to be in between two dogs, and
Yeah.
she's trying to find her way through a bush.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe just keep it in check with that lady. I know you have uncontrollable rage when I see her
Yeah,
dusty ass face, dude.
I don't like old people. No, old people are probably fine.
Yeah.
She's irresponsible with her dog, but that's also probably fine. And I'll just be aware of what she looks like. I memorized her face.
There you go.
Yeah, and then I'm doing good. Work's been kicking my ass up and down, but that's, as Joseph pointed out to me, that's pretty normal for me.
That happens every time you talk to me.
It's funny. I never thought about how often work is kicking my ass until you were like, oh, so like normal, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, well, it's like you know the meme, I just need to make it past this week, and then it's like week 470. I just need to make it past this week, and he's just worn down.
Yeah,
that's you. I mean, every week that's you.
It is true. I really do like my job though. Like I genuinely do enjoy my job. But I think I have been just like grinding down a little bit too much. I think it's like, you know, when you know that you're gonna burn out soon.
Yeah.
I got that earlier. That like last week I got that, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's like, what's your thing when you're in that mode where you say, okay, well, I feel myself shutting down completely, and I can't give myself to this thing, or else I'm gonna fucking snap. What do you do?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Great.
Well, I generally just like give in to my instincts, which is to sleep on the couch a lot instead of in my bed, which isn't good because I don't really like sleep. I sleep on the couch with the lights on and the TV on, which is just, it's like, that's not ideal for sleep. And Sapphire doesn't like that, so she wakes me up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I like get ready for bed, then I get in bed, so I lose like an hour or so of sleep, like from like scrambling off the bed and like scrambling off the couch and like getting into bed. But I'm aware of that problem, and it's been piling up, so I'm gonna try to like get ahead of it and start to like enforce but I have a blanket on the couch, which is really it's just really just me leaning into that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a permanent setup there if you've committed to making it your. Yeah.
Well, the problem is that that's how I take naps too. Like, I don't get in bed. Do you get in bed when you take naps?
Yeah. I think you kind of need to be in bed for a proper nap, because my understanding is that for a nap to be effective, it needs to be quick and focused. It needs to be like a 30-minute. I'm sleeping or I'm resting and then I'm up. Because if you're just kind of lollygagging around, 73-minute nap, you fucked up your day. I've been there so many times.
I hit the 2-hour nap, dog.
Dude.
I'll hit the 2-hour nap and then wake up like I'm not even on Earth anymore.
Sorry, I thought I heard static. That's why I just had that groundhog-esque response. What was I saying? What were you saying?
I was saying I hit the 2-hour naps.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's devastating. That's probably making everything worse. You don't have waking up in the middle of the afternoon kind of well rested must kind of fuck you up, right?
No.
I don't know.
No, well, because I run like 4 hours a day, so I sleep on a dime. Like, I know when I get in bed, I have like a routine. Like when I get into bed, that's like the end of the routine, and I pull the blankets on top of me. And I know when I put my arms under the blankets, that's it. Lights out after that.
Okay. I mean, yeah, fair. Everybody's got a thing, you know?
Yeah. And then at some point in the night, Sapphire gets on the bed, even though she's not supposed to, but I'm asleep, so I don't know. and then at 7 o'clock in the morning she wakes me up, and then at 7:01 my alarm goes off, and that's the end of that sleep cycle.
Yeah, this asshole will rattle his shit around at 5:15 every morning to tell us that he needs a walk.
Aw.
5:15
Every morning?
Every morning.
Do you walk at 5:15?
Every morning.
You walk at 5:15
every morning.
Well, you went up early.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, fucking brutal, dude.
How early did you get up before him?
No, I mean, like I would wake up at reasonable times, but waking up at 6 is nice because the whole point of me doing that is that it's my time.
Yeah.
6 a.m. I start work at 8, so I have 2 hours to like read a book or do whatever.
Yeah.
And now he wakes me up, demands my time and attention, takes a giant shit every morning, and it's like, dude, this is now your thing, and you've kind of invaded my whole life. In a way I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is something that you gotta get used to. Eventually, it stops feeling like it's their time and just starts feeling like it's
Our
shared
time.
It's our time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, dude. His poops are just super gross. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is something that you eventually get used to.
Yeah.
Or at least I have.
I'm trying to think of what else I have updated because it's been such a long time since the last episode.
Really
We talked about this last week off of the podcast, but I finally finished Meditations.
Yes.
It's more of the same. It was more of the same. Still very cool. Glad I read it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really slow read. It took me 5 months to finish that book. 40 pages a month on average, 1.3 pages a day. Fucking crawling through that
You're reading
book.
for 2 hours a day and you only get through one.
No, well, yeah, it was really tough for me.
Holy shit! What?
No, that time is mine. So like,
Oh, I see.
you know, I'll take 15 minutes maybe to read every now and then.
Oh,
but that
okay.
book specifically, I couldn't sit through for an extended period of time.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, it was cool. Like I said, it's fun to have some sort of a basis. Like you and I have had these conversations before about philosophy. You and I are very different kinds of people, and you're more of a book learning type. You're more of like I need to research official things and understand where things come from and that kind of stuff. And I'm more about vibes. I'm just like, if it feels a certain way, I don't really fucking care what your explanation is, but I feel like this is the thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had a conversation like maybe a year ago about it was either like free will or objective morality or something along those lines. Or I was talking about freedom in terms of the Constitution, and you were talking about how rights come from like society, and I was saying rights come from God.
Yeah, the Rousseau and
Yeah, all that-
John Locke argument.
all that little bullshit you're talking. Yeah.
I remember when you would describe it like a regular human being. You were talking about free will, like what?
Whatever it was, we were talking about some very like open,
Esoteric
dumb
bullshit.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the second that you start talking about real people and real theories and stuff, I'm just like, whatever. Go based off of feeling, you know? But it is nice to have someone who lived 800 years ago basically describing the same things that you think that are unique. You know?
Yeah, I want you to know that Marcus Aurelius lived like 2,800 years ago, not 800.
Whatever, dude. Oh, yeah, BC. I did the math wrong.
He lived so long ago.
Did he? I thought he was an AD.
Marcus Aurelius?
I thought he was like a 1200.
No shot he was 1200.
I might Google this.
Rome fell in like 820. Rome fell in 428 AD.
Marcus, or I can't spell Aurelius. Why is there no auto Aurelius?
He might be AD, but it was like 2,000 years
Oh
ago.
shit, 121 AD.
Yeah,
I was hella wrong. Anyway, he's old as fuck, dude. I don't really care. It's all the same. But yeah, just seeing like old dude relating to me in a way, you know, that it feels, you know, whatever. It's nice having a frame of reference of real philosophy, quote, real philosophy from a real philosopher for someone like to reference a certain way of thinking. I see why it's valuable.
Yeah, I like having like that framework because it helps like build. Well, okay, the nice part is like it helps you build up like, okay, so like this is the framework that they're talking about, and it helps you like structure how you can think about it.
Yeah.
What I don't like about it is, and this is something that you and I've talked about too, where like I'm very malleable. So like if I read a philosophy and I'm like, I like that, I'll just adopt it, like start to adopt it like wholesale.
Yeah.
And like I'll basically just like ignore all the other stuff I learned. And so it's just like, oh well. So I'm working on that piece, but that is my favorite part about reading philosophy. Is like it gives you like a structured framework to talk about it, like think about it.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice to rationalize your way of thinking, even if I don't like it. I have a hard time seeing myself sitting down and reading a philosophy book I know I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But in theory, it would be cool because someone could be like, so starting here, you can follow me to whatever my point is.
Yeah.
But I don't know, whatever. It was cool. I started reading 1984, which I also told you about, just because it's such a fucking meme, and it feels like I need to be aware of what's in it. You know, like the 1984 just general memes.
Yes.
And the fact that Big Brother, the show, like the show Big Brother, but the phrase Big Brother comes from that. Or like Memory Hole is another one that people say.
I don't remember that one. I don't know that one.
Memory Hole. It's that word is in that book. I don't know if it's from that book, but people say Memory Hole these days. Whatever, talking about stuff. So, anyway, it's a super cool book, and I'm already 50 or 60 pages in. So the pacing is I'm so much more engaged than the previous thing. But yeah, reading it, enjoying it. After this, I will read the Bible. So really just going back and forth between like hard swings. But yeah, 1984 is a super cool book. And I like knowing at least the most basic information about the story or the characters or the world when, you know, it's basically just like government did something, literally 1984, like that meme.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, it's fun.
I actually I've not read any George Orwell, so let me know how it goes. It sounds like you're enjoying it though.
Yeah, it's cool. For whatever reason, I bought 1984, and then I bought Homage to Catalonia, like the Spanish Civil War thing that George Orwell was fighting. He fought in that war,
he did.
And he wrote a book about his time there, and it's a very small book, and I thought, well, that's a cool thing to own, so I bought it, but I'll probably never read it. But anyway, 1984, that's my starting point with George Orwell.
The Spanish Civil War is wild.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in what happens in that book, to be honest.
I've heard that. That's why. Yeah, I've heard that like the social stuff or whatever in that time was very unique or whatever. Like during that whatever. So I just want to know what the fuck that's about.
Yeah, I was watching a show or YouTube thing, and they're talking about how like Spain has not fought in any of the major wars because every time a major war is breaking out, they go into a civil war. So there's the one after World War One, and then there's the one for World War Two, and they, both times it's like this absolutely brutal affair, and they just never participate in the world wars because they're busy like fucking it, like trying to like unfuck the country themselves. It's like, all right, that's interesting.
That's interesting too, because one of the things about the country that they live in 1984, I think it was written in the 50s, so like just towards, you know, like just after World War II.
Yeah.
And one of the big points is that you're always at war. Like you're either at war with that country or you're allied with them, or you're allied with them and at war with them. But you can think of years back and it was different. But the point is that you're always at war. Like that's a constant or whatever. So yeah, it's like a dystopian thing, but it's cool to see like where it comes from personally. Yeah. Anyway. Books. We should start like a Homegames book club, because talking about this episode in terms of Homegames content, like stuff is gonna change in terms of the podcast structure, because it's gonna be less about updates on the system and updates on the platform, and more about content and kind of like creative stuff. But I think it would be cool to have books as like literary references for the quote unquote art that we create with Homegames.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Is Her a dystopian future? The movie Her. If you haven't watched it, it's with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. Excellent sci-fi movie, but is it a dystopian future?
Yeah. Yes.
Why?
Because the world is in such a state where in the most densely populated part of the world, like part of the country, whatever, he's in LA. in a place like LA, you don't have any human connection, and you have to date your computer. It's not about the dating your computer or about how that's possible or whatever. It's just that he has to, out of like necessity, and the human stuff isn't enough or isn't connecting or isn't whatever. And there's like all these people walking around talking to themselves, essentially talking to this AI, and completely removed from the people around them. Like, think about when Theodore is like collapsing on the stairs at the end, and he's like having a fucking breakdown because his girlfriend left him, and everybody else is just like going along with it, like just walking along. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like, that world, no matter what things they have, like, that world sucks.
Well, okay, hold on. I want to back up for a second.
Yeah.
We see the world through Theodore's lens, and he is Joaquin Phoenix's character, if you're following along at home. But he is a very lonely individual.
Yeah.
But we know he's friends with Chris Pratt and Chris Pratt's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And they know each other, and they've hung out. That was when Joaquin Phoenix was the two-button down.
Oh, yeah.
And we know his friend, who eventually dates, or doesn't date her AI. She's just friends with her AI.
Mm-hmm.
But she was engaged or had a partner beforehand, before that all happened.
Yeah,
so there is human connection in this world. And he was married, and he was going through a divorce.
Yeah, but the human interaction there feels so shallow compared to the him talking to his computer. And, like, his friends don't even really know him or whatever. I forget the specifics of the thing, but in that scene where he's interacting with Chris Pratt or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like they're not really friends. And his ex-wife, they're all sad people. And I guess, like, the world is sad people. And it's moving towards this thing of more computer shit and less real, like, human shit.
Does that mean we're in a dystopia?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I would also, one of the other key points is that his job is writing letters, beautiful handwritten notes. His job is writing sentimental letters on behalf of someone to someone else.
That's true.
And it's handwritten, but he speaks it into a thing, which, not to be the dude that just read a book and I have to reference everything, but in 1984, that's the guy's job, and the whole point is that you don't write anything because writing is the only way that you can't track something or whatever, right? Like, it's like your realest thoughts can be written because no one else can see them. Like, if you put it through a computer or if you say it out loud, it can be tracked or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, not in like a government control type of dystopia, but in that thing, it's just how fucking shitty is it that people don't even write their own handwritten things. The whole point of it is that it's handwritten, and it's so not.
Yeah.
You know? That, like, the point to me is human connection. It's like the whole point of being alive.
Yeah.
You know? It's all so dead, and they've, like, embraced that interaction is dead.
Okay.
Did I just cook you, or what did I do?
I don't know. I don't know. My thing was, like, I don't think it's a dystopia.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it is a world that's very, like, disconnected from each other. But I don't think that's like that falls under like dystopia for me. Like, for me, a dystopia is like when the wheels are falling off. But, like, it seems like people are still schmooving along. It seems like society's still like schmooving. They don't seem to have any like real major problems. Like, at least we aren't introduced to any. And it's not like Theodore was at risk of losing his job, so presumably people have disposable income to pay somebody else to write their letters. So, to me, I was like, this is just a world that's like, where everyone's like very disconnected from each other. But even through that disconnection, we do see that Theodore has connections. He is just a very disconnected person from everybody else. Like his friendship with Chris Pratt's very shallow, but that is on Theodore because he was very reclusive during his divorce. We don't really know about beforehand. I guess that Chris Pratt and him were friends before he was getting divorced.
Yeah.
And then him and his friend, I think Amy Adams plays the friend, they were supposedly friends for a long time, like from college or something like that. So they have like a tight connection.
I'm not saying that the friendships don't exist. I'm saying that the world itself is dark because it's moving away from human connection. It's on a pace. It's like you're never constant. It's always changing. Something is either going closer to something or further away, and it's moving further away from human connection. and they're just like embracing it. And sure, the systems that keep it all going work. Like, sure, you have an economy, and sure, you have a place to live. And I'm not saying that those are not important. I'm saying that, like, you have a place to live in prison.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Fair, that's fair. There's an economy in prison.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's solid just because it works.
Yeah.
Technically, it works. You know.
That's true. Okay, that's fair. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this. I was one of my coworkers said that they don't like sci-fi because it's too dark, and I was like, oh, Her is like a not dystopian future. And then some of my coworkers were like, yo, it is a dystopian future, and we didn't really get into it, but I wasn't sure what they meant, because to me Her is actually like, it's not a dystopia, it's just probably not, it's probably not great to live there, but it's probably not the worst possible. Of all of the sci-fi books I've ever read, or sci-fi media I've ever consumed, it's probably the least dystopian.
Yeah, and I would barely call it sci-fi. I mean, there's not much fictitious about it.
That's true.
It's, you know, I was thinking, because I asked my nana, this is a totally like a tangent thing at this point, but yesterday we were visiting my nana, and I guess to go back before that, about a month ago, I showed my mom ChatGPT, just trying to show her what it is, and it didn't click. Like, I tried to show her just like, you can ask this thing anything in plain English. I think I might have mentioned this before, right? Like, okay, I was like, you can say anything to this in plain English. It'll understand and think in a way that you, like, Google doesn't think. And she didn't get it. She was still typing in things in a very Google keyword type way. And so it just made me realize that there's like a generational disconnect, because to me, the ChatGPT stuff is probably the most amazing technology I've seen in my lifetime. Like, I'm almost 30. I've seen a lot of things in my life. Like, the internet changed everything. The way that content is created and consumed and whatever, it's all crazy. Like, YouTube is amazing and that kind of stuff. But ChatGPT really kind of fucks with me. Like, I used to have a job at a company with, like, working on AI shit, and I still see that, and I'm like, whoa, brother, you know? Like,
yeah.
How does that fucking work?
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever. But anyway, I asked my nana, what's the most amazing technology that you've seen in your life? And she said the video calls, being able to FaceTime somebody. And for her, she was born in 1940. So just think of all the shit that she's seen, whatever. But it is amazing that I can video call her and instantly talk to her, and it's so clear and it's so whatever. What she said in general was that everything moves through the air now, which is true, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and so anyway, my point being that Her, when it came out and when we watched it, whatever, did seem so insane. But we're not that far out. Like, that was not even 10 years ago. And you could you could go on Twitter and find someone building together like a shitty demo of Her, like, today with GPT.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The girlfriend experience.
Yeah. Put that in one of those shitty sex robots that they make. You just need like 8K for like a fucking human Her. Robot Her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like really crazy.
It is really crazy.
And it's bad. I think that's bad. Like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have a Her sex robot.
Have sex with a robot?
I think in general, no.
That's fair.
It's bad. Just don't do that.
That's fair. I don't know. And ChatGPT is really cool, but like under the hood, like, it is still just like a natural language processing AI, right?
It is, but I guess the thing that's amazing is that the amount of data that it has is so vast, and its ability to process it and infer things and at least fake like it's comprehending something.
Yeah.
Is super impressive, to the point where for most uses, it doesn't really matter. Like, the whole Turing test thing, like, does it really matter if you think it's a human or not? If it, like, basically just does everything that you need it to do in such a way, or it's like, trick me enough, I don't really care.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Turing test does state if you can't tell if you're talking to an AI or a person, then the AI passes the test.
Yeah, which is cool. Like,
or the person fails the test.
but so for something as simple as like Like, I think about this a lot, but when we were in school, I had a really hard time with math. I had a really hard time with stuff in general that involved some sort of like a concept or something like pi.
Yeah.
I did not understand pi, and they introduced pi as just a number, right? They just say pi is 3.14.
Like, here's this concept of pi.
Yeah.
Don't worry about how we get there.
Right. And so then they just show you, well, it's actually 3.1415, and then they go off and they tell you how it's an infinite thing, and it freaks you out because you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm just rounding to 2 decimal places, and then this is just, it's so disconnected. But with ChatGPT, you could say, what is pi? And it'll explain it, and it can give you an example, and it'll like interact and whatever, and
you can say, I don't understand, can you give me another explanation? And you can basically just like keep asking it to explain it until you get it. Until it gets to a point where you can understand.
Yeah, and you can, and I know this is more of like the demo goofy stuff, but you could ask it to explain it in such a way where like a pirate would say it or whatever, or like say it with every third word is fuck, or say it whatever. You can get it processable to anybody in any way that they want, because its ability to basically trick you and do good enough, even though you know it's a robot.
Yeah.
It's like, for this purpose, it's the best teacher you can have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like being explained a concept, because a teacher can really only do it like in so many ways because they have a limited amount of time, right? But you have an infinite amount of time with this AI, basically.
Yeah.
To get to explain it to you. Well, not infinite. You still also have finite, but you have more time with this AI than with your teacher.
Yeah.
Or you can go into like office hours, but like elementary school, middle school, high school kids don't do that.
Well, and not to knock on the people that we had for teachers, but you and I went to TUSD public schools, and I bet a lot of those teachers didn't really have the ability to like thoroughly explain the concept of pi. It was just like, no, this is a number. Like, just fucking do the thing. It's in the book.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of our teachers.
That's true.
Probably a lot of teachers in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain pi in a way that like a person who isn't very well versed in like geometry would understand. It's like
right.
Like if you took a circle and you like spun it out, pi is like related to that. But even I don't even know, and technically I took the course that explains that.
Yeah.
College, so not a good look for me, but.
Yeah, but I just think that stuff is super valuable, and like in our lifetimes, we'll see it progress to the point where it'll be super crazy. Like it'll change the world in very crazy ways, I think.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a very safe prediction to make. I mean, it's the biggest fucking thing that's come out in a long time. But anyway, her is awesome, and in a way, we live in it, and I do think it is a very dark world.
Just admitting we live in a dystopia, right? I think it's interesting. I in my head, I didn't really think about like the human connection missing, making it a dystopia. So that's an interesting point to bring up. Also, you're right. Looking at her now, it's like, oh, okay, we're probably like 10 years off from her, as my guess, maybe less.
Yeah, dude, you just need the double layered button up shirts, and we're there.
I've thought about buying 2 different kind of button-down shirts and just like wearing them to your house once and just seeing what your reaction is, and then based on your reaction, I was gonna try it out on more places.
Yeah.
Do you know? Okay, because Joseph turned me on to this YouTuber called Frugal Aesthetic, and he had a whole thing where he bought these like really crazy, like really tall, like utilitarian, unisex heels, like high heel, like boot.
They look like stilettos almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was saying that like he was uncomfortable with the Frugal Aesthetic was the guy Christian. He was uncomfortable wearing them, so he had to wear them around in his house, and they had like go and do like smaller things with them until he was finally ready to like just wear them.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to try it, because that is a look. Wearing like a pink button down with like a turquoise button down like open over it, with the sleeves rolled up, so you have the 2 different colors on the sleeves. Like that's pretty hype.
Calling it hype is perfect. That's very like 2014 also, which is kind of it's like if you did a fork of the fit. Like if you did 2014 and instead of it progressing like it did and eventually the button ups fading away, you keep stacking them. You do like button up jeans.
Yeah.
You do flannel shoes.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, like, okay, this is, if you want to talk about fashion for a second.
Always.
There's this fashion trend called like old money fashion, which is basically like a new wave minimalism where you're supposed to try to look like you owned yachts, like in the great, like the Roaring 20s, basically.
Okay.
I think it's fucked, but it's an interesting aesthetic. But it is like a deconstruction of like rich people aesthetic from that time period.
What's the look? Is it like old Rolexes, or what's the
It's
centerpiece?
Imagine like Great Gatsby, right? Like the button down that's like loose and like kind of more button down than you would wear in modern day society probably, and like a sports coat, and then like boat shoes and like pants and stuff like that, like chinos basically. Like you look like, the idea is to look like your family is incredibly wealthy. Like so wealthy, and like they've had wealth for a really long time, so you're not really trying to like show that you're wealthy. You're trying to wear like stealth wealth.
Stealthy.
Yeah.
This sounds like a variation of just a modern finance bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is like a little bit of it of like what's called like, it's like what is it called when you fucking take back something, like if you're a person of color, you're taking back that look, or you're taking that look a little
Like
bit.
you're reclaiming it.
Yeah, you're reclaiming the look a little bit, or you're claiming the look a little bit, because historically only white people have been able to do that. It's like people of color who are doing it. That's kind of sick, but I do think it's kind of a weird aesthetic. But that is like the opposite aesthetic of the her aesthetic, because it's like very like desaturated colors and like very like mute colors, and you don't try not to stand out. And like her, he was wearing like a bright pink button down, and then over it was a turquoise button down, and like that stands out.
Yeah, but that whole movie is kind of cheating, because the way that it's, I don't know anything about movie making, but the way that it's shot and like the colors and the lighting make it very before you finish watching the movie, you know that it would be controversial to say you didn't like it. It looks like one of those where it's like, oh, some fucking art asshole made this. You know? Like a Wes Anderson movie, when you see that and he's got like the stacked up layers and shit and the text
I do like
labels.
Wes Anderson movies, that's true.
It's like, oh, this fucking guy, you know? Like, I like Half Baked, you know?
Yeah.
I whatever. It's a lot for me.
Yeah. The Grand Budapest Hotel is probably my favorite Wes Anderson movie, if you ever want to try it out.
I tried that's the one that I tried, and that's like kind of the perfect example of like this fucking guy with all the pink. Oh my god, dude!
I love the aesthetic of those movies. I love that aesthetic.
Nah, it's whatever. I wasn't ready for it. Maybe I'll give it another shot one day.
Or don't.
Yeah, I won't.
It's fine not to like things.
I'm being polite. I'm not gonna watch that shit.
Yeah, hell yeah. William Dafoe's in it, and he wears like a black leather jacket. It's kind of sick.
Yeah, that's your whole aesthetic.
It's not a black leather jacket.
You wish you were a black leather jacket. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's your whole thing. You aspire to be that.
To be a black leather jacket?
Yeah.
I aspire to be like a motorcycle man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dream about it.
I bet you do.
Motorcycle, the boots, the jacket, the gloves, the helmet. My dream is to go into a bar, put the helmet down, and everyone's like, damn, that guy rides a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I go up to the bartender, and I'm like,
Shirley Temple.
Water. Fucking dying. It's 100 degrees out there, and I have no AC.
I'm wearing 2 button-ups and a leather jacket. It's fucking brutal.
Christ. You unzip the leather jacket, the button down's like entirely different colors.
The under one is just stuck to you. It's just.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to think of what else is happening in life. Not much. Watching Barry, watching Succession. Both of those shows are ending.
Succession. That's
Succession.
The Succession is like one of the drivers for the old money fashion look.
Oh, I can see it. Yeah, I can see that now. That makes sense with the frame of reference of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool show, but it's also very boring. I fell asleep during the last episode. So.
I don't know. I've not watched it, so.
It's about business. It's fucking
I don't
boring.
like business.
Yeah.
Capitalist scum.
Yeah, I have nothing except home game stuff, I think. So, are you ready to move on to home game stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay. Home game stuff. So, I forget where we were last time. What I remember is we were talking about the mono repo. I don't know if I had already moved everything to a mono repo.
No.
So, I moved everything to a mono repo. Not super fun to talk about.
Or do?
Super not fun to do. It was copying and pasting code from 4 different code repositories, putting them into one, restructuring the code until it all ran, and kind of shoving it into a service on Amazon ECS, or Elastic Container Service. So again, not super fun, not super exciting. And I guess that's kind of the summary, the greater conversation that I want to have today, which is like I was telling Synovia, but I have this list of things that has been dwindling down and then kind of growing and then going down and then growing. And we're in this kind of down cycle where, you know, kind of to summarize, a year ago when we put out, like, we put out this kind of build of Homegames that was like ready to be fucked with.
Yeah.
It was ready to be poked. You could download it and get it working if you were committed to it and get it pokeable. The year since then, I've been kind of taking all of these services and all of these pieces that make all of this stuff what it is, and I've been putting them into the form of what they will need to be for their final production version. I've taken them from separate pieces that are kind of proof of concept or just very, very finicky demos, and I've made them into things that kind of work a little bit better, and they all talk to each other in a way it's a little bit different, a little bit more efficient. Like I said, there's a mono repo now, so the website is deployed in a different way. It's super uninteresting work, and my point is that the list of things that I have to do is only getting smaller and smaller, and the interesting things I have to talk about are getting fewer because it's really just bug fixing. Mm-hmm. At this point, like I've spent the past month getting the API and all of the different services that we have, you know, running in that API, or the mono service I was just talking about, mono repo, and the game publishing stuff, getting it kind of working again. It's still pretty buggy, but it does work again. Updating the website with some more info. I also, minor, but like uploading all of the MP3s and MP4s of our podcast so people can download them directly outside of Spotify and stuff. Again, not fun, just whatever. But the other thing was the cert API. So like before, we had this proof of concept for getting certificates that people could use on their home game servers to have HTTPS enabled in the browser, which gives you certain features like audio and whatever stuff. Also, just kind of was agreed upon at a certain point. Yazeed and I both acknowledged that if you're going to run this shit, if you're going to download our software, whatever, that's running a web server and all this kind of stuff, having it be that little lock, the little, this is secure and this all works and this is all solid, builds trust with people, and it's there just for, you know, you need that for regular people to use your stuff.
Yeah.
And the problem before was that our certifier was me not understanding what the thing I was using was doing. So basically, in order to get these certs, I was using this thing called the CertBot, which is this tool provided by Let's Encrypt. I don't have the ability to fully describe how HTTPS works because I don't fully understand it. But essentially, there's an authority called a certificate authority. Someone like Let's Encrypt basically says, hey, we give you certificates that you can use for your website, and your certificate says that you are a certain website. Like when you go to homegames.io, the certificate says that you are homegames.io. All of the data that your website sends back and forth is signed with this key that validates that you're homegames.io, that only you have. And we, Let's Encrypt, as the authority, basically stamp the certificate and tell other devices like web browsers and other things that no, this IP address is really homegames.io. I confirmed it. And so they have this thing called a CertBot, a command line tool that'll do that for you. But the assumption is that for that tool is that you're kind of running like a standalone web server, or you're doing something, but you need a cert on that machine and you need it to be refreshed for that machine. Mm-hmm. So the CertBot is just a CLI tool. It wraps what's called, I believe it's called, an ACME client, an ACME client, which is just basically the guts that talk to the Let's Encrypt APIs that get those certificates. So when I realized that I can just get one of those standalone clients and talk to the APIs directly, I didn't need the CLI tools. And so because I thought I needed the CLI tools before, a year ago, 2 years ago, I had the certifier deployed in a whole separate EC2 instance because it was basically just a web interface for a command line on a Linux box, which was really fucking dumb of me. But that's what I set up, and that's what it was. Mm-hmm. I scrapped it because it was dumb, but I didn't know the best way to do it. Anyway, I set it up. It's the best way to do it. It works now. When you want to, basically, you can set up your Homegames server and say, I want HTTPS. It'll ask you to log in. You log in. It goes and it requests a key. Basically, it gives you the key. You save that file locally. This is all automated, too. You're not doing anything. It's just the system does all this automatically. We'll save that key, and then we'll wait for the certificate generation. It takes like 90 seconds. Once that's generated, it gives you the cert, and it says, cool. You just have those things stored on disk, and it works. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's basic. It's an API, and it gives you stuff, but it's all deployed in a Lambda, whereas before it was, like I said, its own server, so the cost of this thing is lower. It's just generally more sustainable, less susceptible to failure, because the thing about Lambdas is when you get a 500, like when you get an internal error on a Lambda, it's kind of whatever, because the server behind it is not really a server in the traditional sense, so it's not like your server's down, it's just that request failed. Anyway, not like a whole lot of interesting stuff on the certs, but basically it's there, and I have been, like I said, going through and, quote, hardening all of our services and making them better. So at this point, in my house, I have a Raspberry Pi, my Mac, and then a Windows Mini PC that I use for a Plex server. All of these things will be running Homegames all the time. One of them won't have HTTPS, but the other two will. 2 different certs for 2 different devices, and so that's a good way for me to test. Homegames.link. So when I go to Homegames.link, it should show me all 3 of my devices. Always. I shouldn't need to manage them. I shouldn't need to restart them. I shouldn't need to whatever. They'll just be running in my house. I'll be able to test them and play them and kind of just make sure that they're solid, because this is I'm basically treating it like I'm a real customer, a real user of Homegames. And updating the website. That's it. Like, the stuff is there, and like I said, the list of stuff is running out, and the cool, interesting shit is running out, at least for this kind of phase. I'm working on a game in addition to that, so like so basically in the next week, I'm going to have all of this stuff pushed and finished, because like I said, my services are kind of done. And when I'm in this testing mode, like I said, I'll just kind of have stuff running and poking at it every now and then, but my main Homegames development focus will be working on this game that is essentially like a multiplayer Oregon Trail. It'll be our game. Like, we have Square, which is cool. Like, Square is a game that is real and shows people what Homegames is. It's a good demo. I think I want to also make a good demo, and I want to show as many features of Homegames as possible. Mm-hmm. I want to show assets and sound and some fast gameplay, some slower gameplay, the multiplayer stuff. It might sound ambitious, but like, one of the things that I've learned making this system is that the games are the easiest thing to make.
Yeah.
Because the system is fucking brutal. The system is so goddamn complicated. I have all these web services. I have all this shit interacting with the files. Like, oh man. I've been working on this for 5 years. And you remember when we graduated high school, and when we walked out of the ceremony, I don't know if you remember, but I started crying thinking about people that I knew I didn't like. But I thought, wow, I'll never see them again. Like, I started crying at our high school graduation, and I felt so stupid. But then it was just like looking at this thing and being like, wow, all that shit, and it's over. I'm just having these weird flashbacks going through some of this code, being like, oh my god, I remember writing the thing that will get a config file from an arbitrary file on the file system between any of these 3 different like packages that need to find the config. And I remember this thing that like sets up a WebSocket to homegames.link and this fucking thing that generates certificates, and it's just like all these crusty ass old friends that I've made along the way that I never want to see again. And I'm just like, God damn, you're my buddy. You're my guy.
We've been through hell together.
Yeah, but it's nice. It's a very weird feeling, but I do feel like I'm ready to put this out in a little bit.
Hell yeah.
My date is the end of June. I said for a good clean date, let's call it July 4th. Just because it's a Tuesday. That's when CDs used to come out. I've always wanted to put out a CD. They get CDs nuts on July 4th. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
The CDs, are they come out on Tuesdays, or are you saying the 4th of July?
They used to come out on Tuesdays. CDs did.
Really?
Yeah, they changed it, I think, in 2015. So Friday is the day that music comes out now. And they don't sell CDs anymore, but it used to be, yeah.
Interesting.
Tuesday. Video games, too.
Patches for video games drop on Tuesday.
Do they? Just like always?
Blizzard and Riot both did Tuesday patches for a long time. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah. I don't know. But that's the deadline. July 4th. At this very moment, we are feature complete. We are just buggy. I think by definition, that's alpha.
Yeah.
So that build that we put out last year was kind of like a pre-alpha, if you really think about it. Yeah, no, it's just a fuckload of work. It's almost there. Things are structured in such a way where once it's out, I don't need to do a whole lot to maintain it. Yeah, I just need to put a bow on it.
Yeah. Nice.
It's a weird feeling.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, the Oregon Trail thing is going to be called Vegas Trail, by the way. It's going to be... I've been thinking about it for a bit. And it'll be a road trip from Tucson to Vegas. I just did this road trip. I've done this road trip a bunch of times. Yeah. So I want to make it, like, fun. Like, I want to make it funny, but not funny. I want to make a game that's not, like, I don't know. I want people who have done that road trip to relate to it in a fun way. I want to have a Tucson thing in a way that we
people
don't.
From Tucson would be like, I've done that. I know that.
Yeah, man. Like, if you think about San Francisco, you think about like a cool thing that they've got going on, whatever it is. You think about Tucson, and it's not a whole lot. So it'd be cool if we had something where people could say, well, at least that's a Tucson game or a Tucson thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Put an EG in there. Put a fucking...
An old school EG. That'd be pretty hype.
I don't know.
Kingman or whatever that city is that you drive through.
Yeah, Kingman. You got to get that one... it's that one Chevron that everybody stops at because there's no gas anywhere else. But I forget. But it's like that one street town where you're like, who the fuck lives here every time?
The Chevron people, obviously.
Yeah, they all just work at that Chevron.
They work and live upstairs. That's just that they aren't allowed to leave. They just cycle who's on deck. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I've done the drive between here and Vegas. It's an incredibly boring drive for the most part.
But then there's like the roundabouts. There's distinct parts of the trip that you can make into like a fun little interaction. You know.
Yeah, you've hit a roundabout. Are you gonna make it like old, or are you gonna make it like when I say old, like the time period that Oregon Trail was set in, or are you gonna make it like modern day?
I think it'll be modern day, and we can
You're gonna shoot.
That's the thing is I'm not sure. We need to have like an equivalent of the shooting game. We need to have an equivalent of like the bartering stuff, like the shopping and whatever. We need to have an equivalent of faring the river.
That's the roundabout. That was easy.
Yeah, that's the roundabout. We need to have the multiplayer stuff is going to be different. It's obviously the fundamental gameplay change. My thinking would be that you do things at the same time. So while you're in transit from one point to the next, one person is doing the shooting game, and maybe that's like finding snacks or getting bugs off the windshield. I don't know. These are early ideas, but like the thing of the act of shooting or whatever has to have a parallel. and then other games. And so like the dysentery, you can die of dysentery stuff, I want to still have in there somewhere, but I don't want any person to not be able to still play, and I wanted to make it single playerable as well. So I have a bunch of ideas, but I haven't fully jumped into development of it because of the other stuff. But yeah, like I said, it's getting the website finished basically, and then at that point I'm making a game. Nice. And then that deadline is July 4th. And in that time I'm fixing bugs. And then I'm putting it out, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna hang out in a dark room for a little while, maybe like 4 or 5 months. And then I'll come out.
You and Ringo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'm excited for you to take a break on Homegames after 5 years of hardcore development.
Yeah. But then, like I said, it'll be more of a creative thing. We can do, games that we make. We can do more of the... I think it'd be really fun still to have the competitive game off. You and I take a few hours on a weekend or whatever, and both of us make the same game in a different way or whatever.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Or something like that. Or if we get a community around this stuff, people making games, we can showcase games, highlight games.
Bring them on the potty.
Yeah, bring them on the potty.
So right here, between
just wedge you right in between. But yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah. I just want to get this shit done. Oh, my computer went to sleep. I hope this is still recording. It is.
Hey, oh, nice.
I hate computers, man.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you have any home game stuff?
Yes. Well, I don't have any code to show you, but I did do some research. So last week we were talking about, or not last week, holy moly. Last time we were talking about adding basically end-to-end tests for home games.
Oh yeah.
And so I was looking at it, and it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be. But there are some plugins for Cypress. Cypress is like the one I'm most familiar with, but there is another option too that I need to look into. But there is a way of basically, the way we would do it is you would take a screenshot, or it's called like a snapshot, which is like a plugin for Cypress. Then you would do your action on the canvas, and then you would take another snapshot, and then like basically we would prepare all these snapshots. So it'd be like if you think about I forget the name of the one, but it's like the one with like a bunch of thin squares that make screens, and then as you click through them they change color.
Layer test?
Yeah, layer test. Yeah. And so basically the Cypress test version of it would be there's a screenshot where it's just blank, it's like the first image, and then as you click one square, then you have another snapshot to make sure that matches, and you compare the existing one to that one, and you just do that basically. But I want to do it in a way that's maintainable for us, but also extendable for people who are making games. Because my idea is that basically, if you're making a game, you probably do want to add integration tests. We already have a way for you to add unit tests, but adding integration tests might be a nice thing for you as well. And so that would probably be nice. That'd probably be a good idea of doing that.
Yeah, I just think whatever we add, we should make it modular with whatever we have. We have an old testing tool that I made where you can take the state of any game at any time and turn it into a SVG. So from the internal kind of whatever render stuff of home games, you can take that, turn it into drawing instructions into a much more portable format that can be open on other devices and stuff, and you can kind of just inspect the actual guts of the image outside of home games. So if we can basically have pipe data to SVG, or pipe data to integration test flow, or pipe data to whatever, that'd be really nice.
Yeah, that's another option. The other thing too that Cypress allows for is request intercepting. So we could intercept the request. So say how the front end makes requests to the server to figure out what it's supposed to when it's okay, I did this. What might give me the next squished thing. We can intercept that. We can do a comparison there too, so we can make sure that the data was squished and unsquished properly.
Nice.
Basically. Which is another thing I think we should almost definitely add to our integration testing. But yeah, you're right about trying to lock it in with the SVG stuff. I don't know if Cypress supports that, but I'm sure there's a way to make that work with their snapshotting. Or if not, we could always make our own version of the plugin that snapshotting works with, which might just be like for JPEGs or GIFs or probably a PNG actually more than anything else, and compare it with an SVG instead. Or I'm sure there's one that exists.
Well, I just mean if Cypress, if this stuff works with a canvas, we have the ability to pipe the data to a canvas now. I mean, that's like how the core rendering stuff works, but we can also pipe to SVG. So yeah, whatever. I'm just saying, making it like agnostic, where if we were to ever replace Cypress, the core idea of take the state, put it onto something, and verify the something is the same.
Yeah. There's a bunch of. You're right. There's ways to do it. We don't necessarily need to use Cypress. Cypress, I think, just makes it easier to work with, at least right now. And then as we like have some time, we could probably add some more stuff to it. But there's another option. I forget the name of the other testing tool. I think it starts with the word quick, but not QuickBooks, which is where. But yeah, I'll take a look at that one too and see which one's better or which one fits our case more, and then I will put out something for that.
Sure.
At least like an initial version, like a really simple version, so you can take a look at it and let me know, like a milestone one, basically.
Yeah, it'll be nice because all of the testing that I'm planning on doing is manual, so having some sort of automated testing will be helpful.
Yeah. The other thing is I want to make it not ass, where you have to like continuously like take more screenshots. So I'm gonna see there's like a way to be like do all these actions and take screenshots in between them, and then that becomes our like base basically. But yeah, I think automated testing would be nice because the other thing too is I'm fairly certain that you can hook it up to the GitHub hooks that we have right now for testing, where it just runs every time there's like a PR. So you don't have to like manually run this. It'll run and it'll tell you if it passed or failed, which is probably really helpful if we're gonna make like structural changes or anything like that. But yeah, that's my update.
Nice.
Nothing super amazing.
Yeah, well, that'll be helpful at some point. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I did a bunch of shit, but it's hard to.
When we switched from TypeORM. Not TypeORM, oh my god, that's my work shit. We switched from regular JavaScript to TypeScript.
No.
Having those tests would probably be helpful to make sure we didn't fuck any logic up.
No. See, the thing, like, okay. Here is my argument. Again, I know TypeScript is valuable. I know TypeScript is the best thing to do when you have a community. However, here's my thing. I don't even minify the Squish library that I publish. So when you use the Squish library and you get the code, you're getting like full uncompressed repo. You get everything.
Okay.
Part of that is because I don't know how to do anything and I didn't think to add minimizing as a step in my publishing process.
Yeah.
But two, and I don't get this with other languages. Maybe Python you get a little bit of it. But JavaScript, you get so much of how it works by just poking around. There's a little bit of magic to NPM and a little bit of magic to the fact that it's looking for this node modules directory and whatever. But that stuff is mostly self-contained to the directory that you're using it within. Whereas like Python, you have, I'm not super up to date with Python stuff, but 5 years ago or so, the thing was like you get a virtual environment. It's this separate thing where you have like your package specific dependencies, whatever, similar to NPM.
Yeah.
Is the setup in the end, but you have to do something different for it, and it's a little harder to understand what is actually happening when you're running code on your local system. Anyway, all I'm saying is the beauty of JavaScript is that you can kind of learn everything just in the directory and poking around the files. See node modules, and then I can see, oh, well, there's a directory in here called Homegames Core and a directory called Homegames Web. I can go into those, and I can see that there's just source. It's just I can just keep following this until I learn it. And if not TypeScript, just anything in between that makes it harder to understand. So it needs to provide a significant value. I would just say that line hasn't crossed yet. You know what I'm saying? for it to become worth adding something like that to our workflow, to add CRUD in between everything.
Yeah.
And for someone in the end to have less visibility into like what's happening without like going from zero, going from nothing. I'm thinking about this, the person who knows nothing about programming, nothing about fucking nothing. What's the best way to learn it? Probably not by just digging into the code, but
definitely not by digging into the code.
But nothing else ever worked for me.
Yeah.
I never had patience to sit down on your fucking intro to C++. Mako whatever in Microsoft XDA developer. I never had time for that shit. I had time. I had plenty of time. Never had the will. But then if you just make it accessible, you say this is just code. Check it out. Like just fucking read the code. Basically, anytime my coworkers ask me something about a project, my answer: shut the fuck up. Read the code. Why are you asking me? You know, like just figure it out.
No, I don't know. No, I don't know that one. That one's new to me. I'm always like, oh yeah, all right, we can go through it. Yeah. I think that it's valuable to say, I'm sorry. I think the experience is valuable because I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to learn how to code and they don't know where to start. And just seeing code is probably like a good way for them to thank you for killing that.
Yep.
Like a good way for them to just start and to start asking questions and to start to learn and dig in. One of my coworkers, she told me that basically like she learned to code because she wanted to make a website and she didn't know how, and so she started taking classes and they just like kept teaching her stuff. And at first she was like, I'm getting closer, and then she was like, no, actually I still can't make a website though. And then like eventually she took the right class and they showed her like how to host a website and everything like that, and she was so excited. But anyway, what I'm getting at is like, yes, you're right. I think that right now is not really a good reason to switch to type program. Or not. Jesus Christ, this is really consuming my life, isn't it? TypeScript. There's not really a good reason to switch to TypeScript yet. I do think that it does make understanding the code a bit easier for experienced developers, a little bit harder for inexperienced developers, which is weird, but I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think that the weird thing is that there's so many ways that people could get into coding. There's like an infinite number of ways. You could take courses, you could watch YouTube videos, you could buy a book, you could just start with like the React thing to like make React app site, whatever, and just or literally any of those like ones where you can just like start building stuff out until you figure it out, and like all this stuff. And I think that we should leave it as open as possible for people, but at the same time, I do think that eventually experienced developers are going to be the people who actually like make the games for the most part, or they'll be making more games than inexperienced developers just because they can make games faster. And so I think we will have to eventually do switch to TypeScript so that we can kind of support them more, because I'm sure that typing helps a lot with JavaScript stuff.
Well, yeah, how else are you going to get it on the thing?
Yeah.
You have to type it, right?
I love that one. But anyway, we've been through this conversation like 100 times from 100 different angles. I think we both agree right now it's in a great time. I think eventually probably we would have to. But I think that the Cypress test will help when we do make that switch over. But also, if we ever just need to make large overhauls to any of the systems, or if we need to add more stuff to it, it's a good way of just verifying that shit didn't break.
At this point, we are not. I know I've said this before, and we really haven't done any major overhauls in the past 2 years, like major overhauls. But yeah, we're not making any significant changes like that. I think if we were to do something like that, it would be something new. We would make a new version of the engine and like start from scratch with that or something like that.
You don't think it would add in more stuff to like the form of a squished or unsquished thing?
I don't have enough confidence in the engine as I've made it to think that people will want anything else in it. Like
What?
the way I see it is, I'm like, hey guys, I don't know anything about game engines. I've used one once. Here's what I think a game engine is, and I'm expecting people to be like, you don't know what a game engine is. Make a game engine. This is dog shit, and then I restart. Instead of like, oh yeah, can we make it so we add whatever circles, whatever. I don't know, but anyway, it could go either way. All I'm saying is there's no more me like, oh, what would be really cool if I just decided we just did all this now instead of something else that already worked that made sense. But no, it is interesting, like the thing that you were saying about just wanting to make a website. Like for me, that was just MySpace. I don't know if you had a MySpace when we were kids, but the beauty of it was that you would go and you would look up custom themes with your MySpace, right? The whole thing was that you can basically customize it to be whatever you want. And you would go online and there were all these websites that had things you could download or code you could paste. And you go into your edit page and you just type, or you copy the code that you took from the website and you paste it into your edit thing on your MySpace page. But it was showing you raw HTML. It was basically letting you change the thing with some restrictions, just markup on your shit. And a lot of them would have watermarks and stuff like that. So in the bottom it would be like, made by Nasty Bitch 70 or whatever. It was like, I don't want that. That's not my aesthetic, but I do love what Nasty Bitch has done with the colors in this thing, right? So I want to remove her watermark. And when you realize that you just have to look in the text, in the code that you're copying and not looking at, it's like, oh, it's just right there. I can just delete that and see if it works. And then it does. And it's like, oh shit. And I think a generation before us who had, Doom on floppy disks and stuff, where they would just go and like modify fucking game files and see what happens, or modify text, and so instead of saying level 1 it says level dicks. It's like, oh my god. And so that magic or whatever is whatever, but you need the accessibility. Like if you do a My React app today, what the fuck is it even doing? It downloads so much shit and it makes so much shit.
It really does.
Dude, it's markup, like it's so, you know what I mean? Like it can do so much, but for someone learning, it's like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, I don't know. Just make it accessible. It's not that crazy. I don't know.
No, I'm with you. It's interesting. I feel like learning to code now is actually harder than it used to be.
Why?
Because when we were learning...
Why? I might agree with you, but why?
I feel like when we were learning to code, there was just less tooling, so you had to learn the fundamentals.
That's such a boomer mentality, but you might be right.
Well, no, okay, so but it basically, like if you want to learn how to code, it's not like make a React app, and now, boom, there you go, you're good to go. It's like make a React app, now construct all your components, like tie them together using the right hooks and stuff. And, like, that takes skill, and like a very specific skill of like understanding the framework and using the framework, but under the hood of that, you still do need to have like fundamental understanding of how JavaScript works, because you still need to be able to like construct variables, like link files together properly, import and export files together, like all that stuff. That's just like regular JavaScript stuff. But it's so obfuscated. It's so hard to be like, learn this by typing in this command that constructs like 18 files and puts this web page up with this cool spinning thingy, and now modify it. Because I'm sure the first thing your people do is remove the spinny thingy and being like, I don't know how to make the spinny thingy because they got an SVG, which is never explained what an SVG is. And so you're just like, oh, how do you make that? Like, that was the coolest part of the website.
Yeah.
But that's true about like everything. Like we use Nest.js as our framework for the backend, and that also has like a CLI thing where you're just like, make me a Nest.js app, and it sets up all this stuff and like brings in jest testing and like all these like all the stuff already like pre-built up for you, and all you got to do is like put your stuff into it, which like that is helpful. But then when you go to tie this thing into the back, like the database, you got to know how to set up a database, and you got to know how to like tie all that shit up together, and it's like hard to learn where you need to start learning, basically.
You have to know everything it's doing, and it defeats the purpose of doing it in the first place. Why are you doing a starter app if you know everything it's doing?
Oh, I did that because it sets everything up for you.
Well, no,
I don't need to do it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. But it seems like it's completely going around the actual intention. I don't know what the intention of those starter apps is. It'd be cool if we made a starter app thing on Homegames and said, this is one click and you have a game. But like, what does that do? Does that make it just makes it easier for someone to start typing?
Yeah.
Which is what you're trying to get. I just want to start writing my thing. I know what I need.
Yeah.
So you can have a template, but a getting started, that is not a fucking template. That's like you have to conceptualize. Like you have to teach something to someone.
Yeah. Well, I think for Homegames, it would be like a stubbed out version of a game file.
Sure.
And give you the structure so that you have like, because we changed it so there's like actually like a file folder for every game.
Yeah.
Like having that knowledge is probably pretty helpful. But yeah, I don't know. That's a tougher point. But yeah, I do think they eventually like having like a stub file for people to work off of is probably a good idea. So they just know like what functions are by default available to them.
Yeah.
And like a little description of what they do. But then like how descriptive does that get? Well, all those questions need to be answered. But anyway, yeah, I mean for me it was just because I needed all the stuff that the Nest.js setup does. So I was like, I'll just run their setup start.
Yeah.
So it gives me jest and I wanted jest. And it sets all that shit up and I'm like, cool, sick. I have to like reconfigure some of this stuff on my own, but it's easier to just reconfigure the files that I need than to set up this whole fucking thing on my own and like tie it all together. But anyway, that's why I use the starter. And I imagine that's why people probably would use a stub generator, because they're probably just like, give me all the functions I need access to.
Yeah.
Or I have access to by default.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It goes back to that thing of just knowing your audience. Like, it's hard to, at the same time, talk to someone who has built 100 things in 20 years and they've made websites and CLIs and whatever different shit, and they know what they're doing and they know what they want to do, versus someone who, like, in my head, that person who does what they're gonna do, they don't need guidance, because the shit to get there is already hard.
Yeah.
No one guided you into becoming good at computer shit, so here's another thing. You can look at it. If you know what you're doing, I don't need to make it easy for you.
Yeah.
But I really want to make it easy for someone who has no fucking idea. Because to me, that's like the coolest thing. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I will say on the other side of things, this is, again, one of those like weird things, like I've been in this world, but there was like 3 ORMs that I was trialing. It's like TypeORM, Prism, and Sequelize. Sequelize, if you want to create like a database migration, basically go and like construct a new table and have like the SQL get generated to like make that table, you need to do that through a CLI tool. You can't manually build that yourself. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, as an engineer, I'm never going to be like, I need to make a new table with like 15 columns. I mean, it's like start typing that into a CLI tool. Like, fuck no, I'm not doing that. So I when I learned that, I was like, X on Sequelize. Sequelize is a no-go for us. And there are ways around it, like you can write a bash script or whatever, but I was like, I'm not going to be like, I need a table. Let me open up a bash file. If your ORM doesn't easily support this, then I don't want it.
Yeah, and that's a case of like, I know exactly what I'm looking for, and there's a lot of things that do this.
Yeah.
You're competing with those things, and if you don't meet my whatever, it's very quick to not give a fuck about you.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. Because that, and also like if your CLI tool, if your support isn't helpful to me, then I'm not gonna. And I find that out like pretty early on working with your shit. There's other tools that are better supportive.
And that's the fundamental difference between this and those, is that I don't see this in the same way at all.
Yeah.
Where this is not a utility for people in like a general industry thing. We are trying to make something cool for free.
Yeah.
We are just trying, and I'm not trying to kiss my own balls, but no one has made this before. Nothing is like this. You know what I mean? Like, there's
your own balls.
There's nothing like this. You know what I'm saying? Not to toot my own horn. That's what they say. That's the polite way to
Don't play it off like you didn't open with, I'm not trying to kiss my own balls. Instead, I'm trying to toot my own horn.
You know what I'm getting
But
across.
anyway, yeah, I know what you're getting at.
But yeah, this is something that I just want people to try. I don't want people to want something out of it. I mean, you can want something out of it, but this is not even the same kind of thing. Like when you go to the website, you don't know what it is. That's like the biggest fucking problem that we have. Like you don't know what it is.
Yeah, yeah. This is definitely like a hobby thing more than a professional thing. Because on a professional thing, I have a much lower bar for bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be doing this for 8 hours a day every day. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, and presumably you have a business that is going to depend on this in some way, and your system is going to depend on this, and you want it to be something that you could trust. If you own a barber shop and you want to run home games in it, that's kind of the extent of my thinking of a business using this. It's not mission critical.
Yeah.
If you don't have people able to play games on their phone while they're waiting for their haircut.
That'd be pretty fun.
Dude, I think of it all the time. Anytime I'm anywhere, I'm like, you guys should use fucking my thing that I make. You know?
Honestly, that's true. Because when you're waiting in line, your people are on their phones anyway, and they're like sometimes you're just like trying to find something to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be like, oh, what's going on in the news? Oh, I read the news already. What's happening on Discord? Oh, I read all the stuff in Discord already. What's the stock market like? I guess I don't know.
When you're checking the stock market, that's how you know you're fucked.
I don't have because I don't have any games on my phone or anything. So I'm like, well, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. I'm whipping up my finance bro. Like, what's going on with the NASDAQ? You know what I mean? Like, what is the NASDAQ anyway?
Yeah, and to bring it back to the thing from the beginning, to me, that's my contribution to like the world of horror. We're all on our phones. Wouldn't it be cool if you anonymously played tic-tac-toe with someone in this waiting room?
Wait, is it even anonymous? Because you'll be chilling and it's just you and the other schmo waiting for your turn to get a haircut. And you're playing tic-tac-toe and you beat them. Are you telling me you aren't gonna be like, yeah, you get fucked?
You might, but I'm saying if it's crowded or whatever, you wouldn't necessarily even know.
That's true. In the DMV.
Yeah.
Imagine that shit in the DMV. That'd be pretty hype.
Yeah. That'd be a scale test, a load test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A fun test.
Yeah. I think it would also hit our limit. We have 256 max players.
I've never seen a DMV with more than like 30 people in there.
Oh, dude, no, it's during like bad COVID, they were scheduling like lines of people, and like way over scheduling the lines, and so it ended up being way more people than if they had just not done scheduling at all. And so then you just had hundreds of people waiting in line in the DMV, but outside in the front.
I love that. I love that. It's like so inefficient. It's perfect.
Fucking awesome.
Whoever runs the DMV, they do a really poor job of making government programs look good. There's like so many that actually do work, and then the DMV is the one that people really dislike, and they just keep fucking it up. Like, it's crazy. But anyway.
Every time I complain about the government, I point to the DMV as an example of shit government.
Everyone does. No one ever points to like the fire department as like shit that doesn't work. They're always like, the DMV though. Do you really want the DMV to be handing out food to people? It's like, no, but the fire department handing out food to people would probably be okay, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, it's the DMV, because the DMV is anyway.
Now that we've gone on our boomer rant about the DMV, is it time to call it?
Yeah, I think we can call it. Imagine you're sitting in the DMV and your kid is like, this is so fun, I want to make a game, and you're just like, okay, and then boom, there you go, you and your kid have something to do when they're like 16 years old.
There you go, we're changing the world one DMV at a time.
One DMV at a time.
Yeah.
Can you even do that? Can we even do that?
Go to the DMV?
I mean, legally we can go to the DMV. I mean, like, put home games in the DMV.
I mean, I'm sure we'd have to ask 47 levels of supervisors, and then they'd say no, but we could try.
What would it take? What would we even need to do to get this hyped up in the DMV?
I think you just need someone who genuinely wants it. And then they're like, oh, I played this at my house. I think it'd be cool to put this at work. And then you just tell your boss.
Yeah.
And your boss is the DMV.
It'd be really hype if this was the thing that people just had on hand for when people had to wait for something. Like, imagine you're in Disneyland and they're like home games, Disneyland games.
I'm just saying, I think it'd be cool. I think the opportunity is there for people to use it in a general sense. I think the main thing is people in their house, because all the time people are on their phone in their house. but people are on their phone everywhere. People or whatever. So it can be used wherever.
Yeah, I have a question. When you said 256 is the max, isn't that 256 per game?
It's per session. Yeah.
So you'd have 2 sessions
Mm,
rolling.
no. Well, the problem is that your ID is shared between sessions.
Yeah.
And we have a max ID of 256. So your ID is the same across everything. It doesn't set a new ID per session.
Wait, I'm confused.
So you join Homegames, you go to the dashboard.
Yeah.
Your player ID is 1.
Yeah.
You start a new session.
Uh-huh.
Via Homenames, it keeps track of you, and you're still player 1.
Yeah.
The next player who comes in goes to the dashboard. They're not in your session. Their player ID is 2. They join a different game. Their player ID is still 2. Mm-hmm. This keeps happening. People can join different games, and they're all in different sessions. But when that 257th person comes in, there's no room for an ID for them because we only allocate it to 256.
Oh, okay, I understand now.
We can up it though. It's just how many bytes we use for the player ID, and we just have 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Little nerd shit.
It is some nerd shit.
Yep.
This is like a real bit array, but yeah, brother.
Yeah, it's a byte. It's a yeah. A byte is 8 bits, dude. 2 to the 7th.
A byte is 8 bits, or 2 nibbles.
Oh yeah, nipples.
I think we should wrap this up because we're getting into the boring part of typing.
It sounds too close to nipples. I mean, that is kind of like a cool part of it, but otherwise, it's not very interesting to talk about how many bits are in it.
Is there a chomp?
Ooh, I like that. A chomp. We should do that. If it's not already a thing, we should make some arbitrary 12 bits as a chomp. It's a big byte.
Yeah, it's a big byte. It's a chomp, dog. That's good.
I like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, big byte. I like
big
that.
Byte. It's a chomp.
The chomp.
That could be standard size of what we allocate in home games in Squish.
Talking about accessibility, first page, it's so the color of a 2D square is stored in a chomp. It's all right, I'm out, dude. Fuck this.
I'm in. I'm in, dude. They're like, listen, a chomp is this many bits. It's that's funny. That's funny. I love that. It's 2 nibbles and a bite.
Yeah, bunch of dumb names. I don't know what any of them actually are anymore, but they do exist.
Do you have your powers of 2?
Up to 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, 8192, 16
Thank you everyone for
384,
listening to Home Games
62 7
podcast.
fucking I don't know.
This
That one's the one I got.
Joseph and Yazeed. I want to give a shout out to our friend Tynan, who's Nytan on Bandcamp. That's Nytan. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next month sometime.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.